Please return to your seats. Get back into your groups. So that list that we typed, I'm going to try to hit, I think I've discussed 2 things on it. I'll try to hit everything on the list throughout the rest of the day. So, but right now, I want to, before we continue on, I do want to share something in the difficulty to get through the material. That's not something we anticipated. Like, that is not one of the things that we thought of. We thought of it, but we thought we had a good plan for it. We thought that maybe the course that would be the most difficult to get through, I think, was the intermediate algebra with co-requisite support. So we decided that summer, that's what we would focus on, is preparing all of the materials, all of the activities and such for that intermediate algebra with support course. And we realized we didn't have enough time to make the group work activities, so we wanted to select a book that sort of was group work based already, which was the Mathematics in Action book. And I have a paper with that title on it. You guys don't need to write it down. The handouts this afternoon will have it on it. So we went through that book and we developed all the lesson plans for the entire course, basically. And I've been in the group that was doing this work. There were 6 of us writing these lesson plans. I was the only one who had ever taught like this. And I'd organized my way of teaching like this. I had made lesson plans for myself, but nothing I'd ever want to share with anyone else. And we decided that the lesson plans we made, we wanted them to be instructive for instructors. And they were way too prescriptive. They almost said, walk over here and say this math. So if you look in our box, I'm going to give you a link to our box, you'll get to see those materials that we developed. Well, a big part of teaching this is we developed all the lesson plans. We spent hundreds and hundreds of hours. We killed ourselves getting it all done. And we developed a process for developing the lesson plans, which is great, and you guys are going to have a group work activity on that this afternoon. But what I failed to share with this group, I just can't believe it, is each lesson is based on the learning needs of that particular group that you identified the day before. So if you do a flipped activity, and they come with that flipped activity, you may be able to respond to it in the moment, and you may recognize that, oh, this is going to need me to develop something, and you may have to tell the class, we're going to continue with this next time. In other words, you design your lesson based on what you see happening in the class in the moment from the current lesson, okay? So that sounds like a lot of work, right? But back when I lectured, the way my job was structured was, there was 60% in the classroom, 40% grading with some prep, that, kind of brought me up to 110%, right? Now, it's 60% prep, 40% in the classroom, and I absolutely minimize my grading. My time is best vested in identifying the learning needs of my students and designing my next lesson for those learning needs, and I don't give a rat's ass about grading. And yes, I have to assign grades, and yes, I do things to assess their learning, but I try really hard to minimize the hours I spend on grading, and I'm going to share that with you this afternoon as well. So, main point of that lesson, yes, we crashed. Intermediate algebra with support, we got through quadratic equations. We did not get to exponential, we did not get to logarithms, we did not get to inverse functions. We crashed hard. The following semester, we crashed hard. We produced great students. When they went into pre-calculus, if they took the pre-calculus with support, 100% of them passed it. But they needed the support because we didn't get through all the material. You get what I'm saying? Yes. So we're in the process. So the first year, we got further that second semester. The third semester would have been this previous fall 17, a little bit further, we finally said this can't go on. We can't keep not getting to logarithms, right? We have to get through the material. So getting through the material in the intermediate algebra support was a problem for us. So we decided to change up and choose different materials. And we have two instructors doing the experimentation with the new materials, and it looks like they're going to get through everything this semester. Like they are way on track to get through the material. So we think we found a solution. But yeah, getting through the material was difficult. And I'll talk more about that later. But that was our big crash. We have other crashes too. Yeah.
What is your cell phone policy in class?
Oh, first of all, I give my cell phone to my students. I'd rather them text me than email me because I'll respond, but I have a rule about texting and I'll share that with you later. What I do, we have different text phone rules. Every class has a personal thing. For me, I give text breaks. I do this. You really need to text. It's rude for you to be texting while your group mates are working because even though it's only 30 seconds, your mind disengages. They've already made progress. When you come back in, you slow them down to catch you up. So sorry, you gotta put your cell phone away. I don't know if everybody do that. So sorry, you gotta put your cell phone away. But I'll tell you what, I'll make this deal with you guys. You really need to text, we'll take a 1-minute text break. You just, catch my attention and say, I really gotta, read this text or do a text. I'll call a 1-minute text break. Everyone has to stop learning, the entire class, and do something else for 1 minute. And then, somebody finally asks for it. I give a text break. It's 1 minute. The class decides they don't like it, and I only end up needing to do it twice a semester, maybe 3 times. And I have no cell phone problems. The class, as a class, decides they don't like the interruption in the middle of learning. And it just goes up. And I don't mock the student that asks for it. I say, hey, we have to be courteous. I'm giving a text break. Not fair that you two continue learning while the person next to you is taking advantage of the text break. Everybody has to stop. So then they don't want it. So that's how I took care of it. But it depends, you gotta be true to who you are as a teacher. You might not be able to pull that off, but I do tell people to shut the hell up, so it works for me. Okay. So resistance, and it's you guys put up, you guys, you are thinking, you're ready. You're ready for whatever face plants you might do next year. You guys are ready for it. Like, you're thinking about things that need to be thought of. We thought about all kinds, like, gotta get the lesson plans done. And we had to throw them out the first week because you need to respond to what the students need, not what you pre-imagined they would need. You see? You guys are way ahead of where we were at the summer before we launched. What I didn't see up here was resistance from outside groups like counseling, curriculum committee. But we were back before it was cool, right? Before the president of the college wanted it to happen. We had to hire a new president that wanted it to happen. So we got a lot of resistance. We got resistance from our sister department, the math teachers in our sister department, because of things like this. How the hell can you put beginning algebra, pre-algebra, beginning algebra, intermediate algebra, college algebra, and trigonometry into a pre-calculus support class with support in 4 hours? So I call this resistance part 1. This kind of summarizes it up. Counseling, curriculum committee, the VP, our first VPI that we had to get rid of. If they cannot succeed in a base, and I did see something like that over here. It was, somebody had a basic, here it is. Will it be successful when students are not prepared for basic skills? That is kind of summarizes this. This is the resistance we heard a lot. In fact, the time the instructors in my department spent away from the moment we sold it, Tammy and I, the chair, and I sold it to our department. Everybody was all in. But their all in was inversely proportional to the time they spent away from me. So the longer they spent away from me, the less they wanted to actually implement. So there was a lot of this energy. Scott, he was in when I'd be talking to him. 2 or 3 days would go by, we can't do this. We have to abort. We have to abort. Abort. So this was the resistance. If they cannot succeed in a basic skills math course, then they cannot place directly into a transfer level math course and succeed. Like that just is, how can that happen? All right, okay, so we'll talk more this afternoon, but I want to show you something.
I ran out of juice. I'm gonna charge for the second half.
So, should I keep, I gotta keep going. So, let me tell you what this data is. This is 1 year, so the 2015 cohort before we implement, before we change our entire program. These are underprepared students. Any students identified as underprepared. They're not first-time students. In other words, they may not be freshmen, but it's their first math class. So first math class, fall 2015, they got a year. First math class, fall 2015, they've got a year. 10% of the underprepared students pass a transfer level class. Makes sense, right? Because if you place 3 levels below, how the heck are you going to get through in a year? But we know that even if you give them 6 years, only 6% of them get through anyway. So, but this includes 1 level below as well. So you take all those underprepared students, any level below. These are only the ones that went into a co-requisite support course, not our Prestats course, not our intermediate algebra with support course. 67% of them passed. You take your students that place into a transfer level course and you put them in there. Their pass rate is about that, isn't it? 70%? 67% of the underprepared students that we put directly into a transfer level math class with support succeeded. So come on, be the naysayers. What's your response to that?
They didn't learn everything that they.
And we dummy down the curriculum, right? That's the next thing. We dummy down the curriculum. So I want you to keep that in mind. We dummy down the curriculum. We didn't. Are you recording me? We did not dummy down the curriculum. I'm just saying that's what you get accused of. Okay. So, what?
Did you assess less?
No. We assess same amount of exams. I just don't collect homework and stuff. Same amount of exams, same final exam. In our department, you have to earn D or higher on the final exam to add an overall 70% or higher to pass the course. So if you have an A going in the course and you get a 50% on final, you don't pass. Do you get what I'm saying? Okay, go ahead.
An argument was made by somebody that the instructors are biased and so the grades will probably be inflated.
Right, grade inflation. Well, can somebody write these down for me? So grade inflation, dummy down curriculum, they didn't learn all the material. Yeah, those 3
The
things.
instructor has a reason to want them to succeed.
Right.
Because they've invested so much.
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah, right. So how can you measure, define it out that if that's the case? What would you do to assess those students? What would you do to see if that's the case?
Subsequent course success.
Subsequent courses, right? See how they do in subsequent courses. So we'll talk about that in a minute.
Common finals at all?
Common finals, we didn't do common finals, but yeah, common finals would take care of that as well. Okay, so first of all, they didn't learn all the material. Who knows what they learned, right? I mean, do you really know what they learned? They demonstrate what they learned related to the problems you put on the final exam. But who knows, can we really assess, do they really understand the relationship between the real life situation and the function, right? So, we took a 3-prong approach. We decided we don't care if they learn everything. We care that they learn everything in the pre-calculus course, right? We care that they learn what's in pre-calculus. We care that they are prepared for calculus, And if they forgot how to find the common denominator of a numerical fraction, but they can find the common denominator of a rational expression when you're adding 2 rational expressions, we're okay with that. Okay? Like we decided we would take a different approach to how we cover all the material. So we took a 3-pronged approach to structuring our courses. We did structural changes to our math program. We already saw those. I talked about them in the beginning, those 3 things. But then we did paradigm shifts in teaching and learning. You've seen a little bit example of that We don't lecture, we teach 1-on-3 in groups. I never talk this much, I have dry mouth, it's miserable. So paradigm shift in teaching and learning, I'm going to talk about more. And we did community of practice. One of the things that you guys listed was teacher training. We meet almost for the first 4 or 5 weeks of the semester. We meet every Friday for a minimum of 2 hours by course, and we do a community of practice on how to make this work. And then we might shift down to twice a month after that, but if we need more, then we do it. We call it teacher training. It also involves job shadowing. We have a drop-in policy. You can drop into my classroom whenever you want to observe. When you do, I have a list of things I'm trying to improve, and I'll pick just 2 or 3 every few weeks. So when you come in, I'm going to give you a sheet of paper, and you have to give me feedback on how to improve those things that I'm working on as a teacher. That's your ticket to drop in. Anyone from anywhere, you guys are down in San Diego, come on in. Okay. So those are the 3 things we implemented, and we decided to do this community of practice. We misunderstood what it would need to be that first summer when we thought what it would be. We thought it would be the full-timers teaching the part-timers how to do it. No, the part-timers taught us how to do it in the community of practice. I have never learned more as a teacher than I learned by participating in this community of practice. So the paradigm shift in teaching and learning, student-centered classroom, activity-based, we're going to talk more about that in the afternoon. Intentional support for the affective domain. A lot of the things that you guys have listed on the board, the lone wolf, the student that doesn't want to participate, those are actually not anger or attitude, it's fear. And so we interweave affective domain. Do you guys know what affective domain activities are? I didn't. Yeah, it's like a fancy word. Dealing with things outside the course, like dealing with their fear, dealing with their time management, dealing with their lack of ability to get to class on time. Dealing with those things. We structure it into our lesson plans. We have a lot of affective domain activities, a lot. If I have time, I'll show you my Michael Jordan one that I do on the first day. Okay? So, and that takes care of a lot of the student attitude things that you guys listed here. That intentional support for the affective domain really does help that. So, change expectations. This is one thing we forgot to do. And it goes with the things you guys listed on here. I'm like, oh, that's a change expectation thing. Oh, yeah, that's a change expectation thing. You have to invest time in the beginning of the semester to change your students' expectations. You have to sell them on the model. And you have to change teacher expectations. Those teachers that haven't bought in, but they're thrown into it because the department, we went all in, you've got to nurture them. And you have to avoid invalidating, so I shouldn't call it the math pipeline of doom. You shouldn't invalidate the math pipeline of doom because that math pipeline of doom was created with the best of intentions to support students. Do you see, what I'm saying? So you've got to nurture those teachers as well because it's difficult to buy into this. It seems like magic right now, doesn't it? I'm hoping by the end of the afternoon it won't seem like magic.
How much time do you give them, the students, to get used to the way of teaching?
I spend every week, there's a little something I do. Like in my stats class, I share data on the success rates and we analyze it. I'm teaching this way in calculus right now. I shared some of that data too. I find ways to weave it into the math lesson. So I don't give up. I'm doing it. It's inherent in what I do in the classroom. Is to keep that buy-in, keep that family feel, keep that nurturing each other, feeling the love. Okay, the student-centered classroom, these are the major components of it. Lecture and robotic note-taking are replaced by contextualized teaching and learning. Nothing we do is out of context. If we are going to factor a polynomial, it's got to have a context. Because what I've learned in teaching this way, quick little story, back when I was first hired at CLIAMAC, I was hired to teach calculus and above, basically. They had 3 teachers at the time, and Bob Furry was teaching all of it. And so I didn't know how signing up for a summer school class worked, and I got stuck with a pre-algebra class. And I was a nervous wreck. I thought, how will I teach this? How do you teach adding and subtracting negative numbers? I don't know how to teach it, you know. And I liked it that summer, so I continued to teach it. And at that point in my life, so I'm going to say something that I'm ashamed of. Okay, so prior to that, I believed anybody could do anything, given enough effort and proper support. I was a lecturer pretty much back then. Several semesters of teaching that pre-algebra class, I developed this attitude, I'm ashamed to say, that, you know, some dogs just won't hunt. You know, there are just students that they can't do math, they're not going to make it, they're going to fail pre-algebra several times, they're going to fail intermediate algebra several times, or beginning algebra several times, and they're going to disappear, which they do. That's why our FTS went up, because our students aren't disappearing because they're getting through a math class. Then I started teaching like this, and the students that, you know, placed 3 levels below and had difficulty with fractions and such, they were doing analyses and doing things that blew me out of the water. Like I was learning from them. And like I was born anew into my craft of teaching, realizing that these students are capable. They have capacity. If you can just contextualize and make what you're asking them to learn relate to something they already know. If you can do that, they can do it. They can do it. I witness it every day. It blows my mind. So, collaborative work, they just work in groups. Productive struggle, we let our students struggle. That Jim Stigler article that you wrote, we have strategies to keep that frustration from devolving, that productive struggle from devolving into frustration. We remediate in context. We have a lot of little activities where what we do is a quick assessment to see if the class needs that remedial skill. And then you have them talk with their neighbors, you do a little assessment. You see like, gee, 2/3 of the class has got this. I'm going to let them talk to each other, put another quick little assessment up on the board, walk around and see if the ones that weren't getting it know how to do it. Great, I don't have to address this. I don't have to teach adding and subtracting fractions. They got it. They just want it from each other, done. Hands are washed, didn't take 4 minutes. I don't do a whole lecture on it. Okay, engagement with brains-on activities. In every class, the students feel like they're doing collegiate, college-level work worthy of their effort and interesting. They don't want to disengage for that 1-minute text break. They're upset at the 1-minute text break. And then a lot of discussion. Nothing like what I'm doing up here today. Okay, so these are what our classroom looks like. This is an intermediate algebra with support class. This is they have name tags on. So Scott Eckert is the teacher in this class, and he makes all the students wear name tags the first 2 weeks. So I know this is the first 2 weeks, and I believe Scott told me this was the first week. And so tell me what you see in this picture. This is an intermediate algebra with supports class. So we've got pre-algebra, beginning algebra, and possibly intermediate algebra students in there. What do you guys see up there?
You're smiling.
You're smiling. Well, I don't like these shots where they're looking at the camera. But I see bronze, silver, gold, and some adding and subtracting. I also see 80.95 or times 95 plus 0 is 80. I don't know if there's a percent sign there or something. I don't know. But what do you think they're doing in this intermediate algebra class with pre-algebra students in it? What does that look like with bronze, silver, and gold on the board?
Mixture problem.
They're doing a mixture problem the first week. First week, mixture problem. And it's contextualized. And they will design the lessons for subsequent weeks around that introductory lesson. And the goal is you walk into class, you do something that creates an even playing field, where you don't have the dominant student that's the know-it-all. We start with functions. We start with functions day one. Everything's functions. Because that dominant person is now kind of at the same level as that pre-algebra person. And it's remarkable because the pre-algebra person has ideas that intermediate algebra person wouldn't think of, that kind of take them in the right direction. And it creates this even playing field that makes the insecure person go, oh look, nobody else in my group knows how to do this. I just had an idea, I'm going to risk and share. So magic happens if you make an even playing field. So That's an intermediate algebra with co-requisite support course. This is a pre-stats course. This is a part-time instructor. You guys didn't put that up on the board. That's something we worried about with the arrogance of full-time instructors. The part-timers won't be able to do it. They're too busy driving between colleges and stuff. No, our part-timers, all of them that have participated in this, and basically if you want to teach a Kuyamaka, you're going to teach a co-requisite support course, right? They have taken to it like you wouldn't believe. We had this one part-timer that was completely opposed to this, refused to ever teach it. He's teaching pre-calculus with support. He comes out of class, like that first 2 weeks, it was scary. I thought, I don't know, we might have to intervene. He comes out beaming, he's excited, he has stories to tell. He can't believe how wonderful this is and what the students can do. So this is our stats class with support. And do you see this sort of intensity going on right here? Mary only teaches 1-on-3, she's never at the board. And so what do you see in the background? They're all working. They are all working. Yeah, they're all working. So, and these guys are actually arguing with her. They're actually arguing with her and telling her she's wrong about stuff because she doesn't tell them how. But what you do is when they ask a question, you go, I don't know, what do you think? Or if you do see they're about to get to frustration, you ask a question that's sort of within the question is a teeny bit of a hint and leads them in the right direction. Or you ask a dumbass question where they go, well, of course not. And you go, well, why not? Like, you know, you got to figure it out. So Mary said she was completely arguing with her about how to proceed with whatever they were working on in that moment. Okay, so this is that same class that the first slide was on. This is Scott Eckert. I knew Donna would be here. And I just wanted to kind of makes you want to cry, huh? This is Scott's class. Yeah, he's working with these students, and what do you see going on? They're all working on the boards. There's no slackers. And a couple of you, when your group mates went to the board, I came over and I said, your group mates are at the board, you know, aren't you afraid that they're out there feeling insecure because they're all by themselves and the class is looking at their butt or something? We need to go, you know, show them some love, get up there and give them support. We don't let one person from the group go to the board and the other two sit and gossip. Because at the board is when the real math happens. That's when they start going, wait, no, that's not going to work. Because they're also spying at other groups, putting stuff up on the board. And so any prerequisite skill you needed them to have, it sort of flows through the class like fire and you don't have to address it when you have them do work. So, okay. Now, it's almost time for lunch. Community of practice. We have regular meetings organized by course. We have drop-in job shadowing. We have one-on-one mentoring. And then we do literature review, that Jim Stigler article. I found it because I had a reluctant teacher in my pre-stats group who just refused to not lecture. And we don't make them not lecture. You know, if you want to go in and lecture for 3 hours, you can. I couldn't do it. So we did a literature review. You know, I found some articles to try to help him. And as it turned out, I just needed to leave him alone. You know, just give him a couple years. He's progressing. You know, he's coming along and getting there. Yes.
I normally lecture, and I'm going to be teaching these co-requisite courses.
Are you scared?
So I am training myself now. So I'm doing a lot of group work now, so that then when I go into full mode, I'm ready. But I'm doing it now, and I feel like I'm not working when I'm not lecturing. It
Okay,
just feels weird.
and also you probably have some change back attitude from your students. I notice that if I start out lecturing, and I do that for a while, and then I switch to group work, the students don't engage in the group work like they do if this is the mode that I do the course in.
So I lecture for maybe 30 minutes.
And then you have them practice some problems.
Yes.
So you feel like you're not working because they've already seen how to do it, and there's not productive struggle going on. When there's productive struggle going on, when you don't show them how to do it, when you set it up, and I'm going to show you a setup later, when you set it up and you wet their brain to start thinking in the right direction, but then you give them an activity that they actually don't know how to do, and you put them on task, you're exceptionally busy teaching one-on-three. Because, in fact, the exhaustion, the 3 hours flies by, but I am often tired at the end emotionally, because I may come up to your group and you guys have some questions. I've got to assess what you're doing, assess your needs. I got to determine, do I let you continue with productive struggle? Do I ask you a dumbass question? Do I ask you a real leading question? Do I play it down and say, I don't know, I was hoping you'd figure it out? You know, do I, you know, like, you're always looking at the needs of the group that you're working with. And you can't, you know, the groups want you. You know, so if you've already shown how to do something and they're reiterating it, that's a different, it's not what we would call a productive struggle activity. So that's probably why you feel you're not working. Is that okay feedback, or do you feel rejected right now?
I think the struggle that I have is different. It's just on me. Like,
Well, I don't think it's on you.
Productive.
I'll just read just a minute. I think it's on the activity that you're doing. The activity, they already know how to do it, they're not needed. But if you give them an activity that engages them in productive struggle, you're needed. And so then you are working 1-on-3. That's these pictures. Mary was needed. This group was way off track and arguing with her, and she's not going to hand it to them. And she has other groups that need her, so she's got to get over there. You are engaged fully, intellectually, emotionally, 100% of your being is involved in teaching when you've got an activity they don't know how to do. So I wouldn't say it's you. I would say it's the activities that you're using. And I think if you go to productive struggle right now, you'll have a mutiny from your class because they weren't birthed into that from day one.
And by the way, that is the furniture that we're getting over the summer.
Yeah, these are the koi desks.
So my question is, like, let's say if you're working with a group, well, how do you know the other groups are working? What if they're not? What if they're like not?
Well, there could be a whole class group quiz coming up. They're doing something they're interested in. You know that thing when you get engaged in something you're interested in and you don't want to look over there? Our stuff's interesting. Like they're working, and you can hear it when they're not. Like I heard the movie. I was way over there. I heard a non-math discussion over here about a movie, and I drifted over to listen. And I thought, oh no, they're relating it to what's on the board. Okay, I'm going to keep walking. You know, you're in tune, and you know who your gossipers are. You know who the students are that you're likely to need to keep an eye on. And I developed a relationship where if she's the gossiper, I say, you're the task manager, make sure she stays on task. Because she needs to learn and she needs you to do that. And she's like, yeah, I do need that. And, you know, so you build those relationships in class where the students are responsible for each other's learning. Plus, there's the threat of a whole class group quiz coming up. And I could pick on individuals. So if she's not focused in learning, that's going to hurt your score. Do you see what I'm saying? Yes?
Did any of the group ever give up on you and walk out on you? And how do you handle that?
So did a group ever give up on me and walk out on me?
Yeah.
That has happened in many of our classes. Our community of practice, we deal with that and how to bring students back into the fold. My attitude, so I've had students walk on me, not a group. If that has happened, I have failed, is my attitude. Because my attitude is to create a safe learning environment that feels welcoming and allows students to take risk. Somebody who walks out in frustration like that, I let the productive struggle devolve into frustration. So I need to work to bring that student back into the fold, no matter how much my ego is insulted in that moment. Do you understand what I'm saying? So my first reaction might be, who the hell does he think or she thinks he is? My second reaction is, oh dear, how can I bring that person back into the fold? And so then, you know, I take it to my community practice meeting on Friday. We, you know, do group therapy, and we come up with strategies to bring the student back into the fold. What I do is I lose whole classes. I don't lose one student. I'll have a whole class turn on me. In the past, my community of practice meetings, I go to them and I say, okay, I'm the facilitator, right? Okay, I can tell I'm going to lose this class. So they go, okay, what's happening? What's going on? Okay, we do this. You got a sniper. What can we do to bring the student that sits in the back and snipes at you? You know, we call that the sniper. So what do we think is going on with the sniper? Why are they sniping? They feel insecure. Why do they feel insecure? They don't know how to do this. What can we do to make them feel, what can you do to build up the confidence of that sniper? Or they feel overconfident. In other words, we assess and we strategize how to bring them back into the fold. I have never lost a class since we started this community of practice, nor have I lost a student. So anyway, okay, real quick. Schedule changes. This is fall 2015 before we implemented. So 2+ levels below, we had 18 sections. We're a tiny college. I know you're probably laughing at this. 1 level below, 15 sections. Prestats, we were teaching at a time 3. Statistics 11. All transfer level 29 sections. So fast forward to fall 2017. Well, here's fall 2016 when we first implemented. These would be your intermediate algebra courses with support, or just straight up, 10 of these were with support, 9 were intermediate algebra. So we had 19 sections of intermediate algebra, roughly half were with support. We're down to 13 in fall 27, 7 with support. Where we're really trying to weed those out, you know. But look at our transfer level. We've gotten rid of those, and they became our transfer level of support. And our FTES has gone up, while all other colleges in the area, their FTES is declining right now. So, okay. So real quick, closing the equity gap. Business STEM students, for every 1 student that went into business STEM and succeeded, we've got 5.4 succeeding after implementation. So it went from 9% of unprepared students passing B-STEM, and I want to say, I don't know if it's year to year. Actually, fall 2016, yeah, I think it was year to year on these. 11 times greater there. But what I want to get to is, real quick, this is just, these aren't succeed, this is access. This is enrolling in a transfer level course. This is access for for Latinx. Remember, 50% of them were placed into the math pipeline of doom. Now they're 5 times greater going into transfer level of support. Access white students. Okay, this is success. So this is 2 years, starting in fall 2013, ending in spring 2015. So for every 1 that placed into the math pipeline of doom that passed a transfer level class within 2 years, we have this many passing a transfer level class in 1 year. So we're comparing 2 years to 1 year. So 3 levels low for every 1. We went from 4% to 56%. Of those that placed 3 levels below. For those that placed 2 levels below, 19% to 70%. For those that placed 1 level below, 36% to 66%. Again, 2 years on the left to get through a transfer level class, 1 year on the right to get through a transfer level class. So this is by ethnicity. This is the one that just, I don't know, makes my nipples hurt. Okay, from 3% to 55% for Black students. 2 years, 1 year. 2 years, 1 year, 15% to 65% for Latinx. And so this would mean 4 times greater.
Sorry, what's Latinx?
Excuse me?
What is Latinx?
It's the new hip word for Latino and Latina. Okay, so a while back we weren't allowed to use Hispanic. We went to Latin, went to Latino, but then Latinx is the X stands for the variable for the gender.
Thank you.
All right. So whites, 16% to 76% rate. Had the whites not improved, we would have more than closed the equity gap, right? But because we raised all boats, here the equity gap, I think, statistically is closed between Black and Latinx, but we don't have it closed with the whites because they went up as well. Okay, resistance part 2. This is the last thing I'll talk about. So we had success in our math classes, but, our own curriculum committee, our sister college, some folks in DSPS and financial aid accused us of dumbing down the curriculum, of the teachers having incentive to pass the students, all of those things. So this is our resistance part 2. So they get access and they're more successful in your math classes. But how are they doing in classes with a math prerequisite? So Chem 102, I just want to tell you what that is for us. Chem 102 is an allied health chemistry class for nursing majors and allied health majors. And it's
Chem
just,
103 here, they're the same thing.
okay, so yeah, it's called, what is it?
103.
So Chem 103. So think Chem 103. So what is the math prerequisite for your Chem 103? Beginning or intermediate algebra? One of those? Intermediate algebra?
It's elementary, and it's 30.
30,
Okay.
yeah.
So because we got rid of beginning algebra, it no longer exists, our students don't have a way to get into Chem 102. It took us a long time to convince the Chem 102 to accept our pre-stats course and the backward design mathiness in our stats class with support to accept the support course and pre-stats course with what we call our math interludes in them as a prerequisite for Chem 102. So they let a few in, more than a few, but they would let some in, and we started collecting data, and now they've accepted it as a prerequisite. So students that went the algebra route, even through intermediate algebra, like students that went through intermediate algebra before they took Chem 102, on their first attempt at that allied health chemistry course, 55% passed in the traditional pipeline, from the math pipeline. The ones that took our co-requisite course with support or our pre-stats course, 86% passed Chem 102 on the first try. So that should sort of answer the question about dumbing down the curriculum. How do they do in subsequent classes? More importantly, the traditional math pipeline, 32% from the traditional math pipeline we withdrew from the Chem 102 class. Whereas the students in the co-requisite support model, only 14% withdrew. So do you see that keeps the FTES up in the Chem 102 class? Because they're not dropping out. So we've lifted FTES in the disciplines that require math. Now, emerging data of how they do when they go into calculus from our pre-calc, we have emerging data, but the n's too small to share. It's like 18 and stuff like that. And because in our intermediate algebra with co-requisite support, we didn't get through the material well, when they go on to just plain calculus, when they leave our intermediate algebra with support class and go into calculus, they succeed at a rate about 10% less than the people in the traditional math pipeline. So are you hearing what I'm saying? Traditional math pipeline, let's say, I want to say it's 65% of them succeeding Calc 1 the first attempt. Only 50% of our intermediate algebra with support. But remember, we only finished linear equations for those numbers. We didn't get through. But all of them that decided to go into the, not Calc 1, pre-calc, intermediate algebra with support into pre-calc. So all of them, 100% of students who went from intermediate algebra with support into pre-calculus with support, 100% of them passed. But the N is small, it's only 18. So you got to hold off on that. Plus, we are going to get through material this semester in our 2 experimental courses. And I think I'm done enough. Resources. So all the materials that we've developed, this is a link to it. I'll make this presentation available to you. This is the KPPS video. You'll see me teaching an action in class in that video. And this is contact information. Terrie Marshall is the department chair. Here's me. Please read the notes at the end of each one. Okay. Okay, sorry I went a little bit over, but you guys were late. You guys were late? I'm on 2 hours right now. I'm not under 2 hours. So that's what you get for being late. And sorry I talked at you so much in the afternoon. There will be no talking. I'll be before.